I hadn't planned on tackling cleaning the undercarriage of this car when I got it. Um, just seemed somewhat daunting and really just started doing it because I had my pressure washer out. I was doing something else with the car on, I guess, a couple of weekends ago and just started blasting away. And as you can see from the pictures, these are all pictures I just took. I didn't just take, but I took them the morning after the car was delivered. The car is cosmetically in great condition. Uh, the undercarriage was just grimy, is still pretty grimy. And like I said, I just you know, got underneath it. I didn't have any ramps at the time and just blasted it with a pressure washer. And I could see after I'd done it, after the dust and grease and water had cleared, that a lot of the places where it was really hard to tell what was going on just because there was so much gunk accumulated from the last 30 years. Some of it looked really nice. So I then decided to put it up on my newly purchased ramps and try to figure out a strategy for cleaning the thing. I was hoping it was going to be as easy as spritzing it with some degreaser and blasting away, maybe scrubbing a little bit, and that has not been the case. It's disgusting work. You get soaked, you get covered in grease. Even if you had a lift, which I do not, it probably is still pretty nasty work. But because of the way I went at it, I didn't think I was going to go that far with this, and I still might decide it's too much work and quit at some point. Uh, I didn't chronicle or document the physical condition of things underneath the car before I started. But what I do have is pictures. The seller of the car took a lot of pictures, and so I'm just going to do a little slideshow to give an idea of the before using the pictures that he included with the car. So having said that, let's start on the ugly parts. This is obviously just a shot taken from underneath the front bumper, looking directly back down the car. And as you can see, it's pretty dirty. It's not trying to shame anybody for having a dirty undercarriage. It's not top of a lot of people's list of important things to do. And honestly, it the grime, road goo, whatever else is in there, might have had a hand or played a hand in protecting things, which you'll see a little bit later. But it's a pretty thick coating of stuff. This isn't a close-up, but I'll switch over to that next. This is from the front driver's side, directly behind the front wheel. And getting a little closer into things, you can see just everything is pretty well coated. And as I said before, that's kind of what got me curious about this. I just wanted to see what was underneath. Uh, I felt pretty confident it was going to be in good shape, but you never know. The grime could have been covering up just who knows what. The transmission pan has been especially resistant to my efforts to clean. Some of the other pieces were pretty easy. Some of it just kind of blasted off with the pressure washer and not much else. Um, the lines, the different metal fluid lines have been a little bit annoying. After I got past the initial softer grease, there's some dried on stuff that's been very difficult to deal with. Here you can see a section of the exhaust and the heat shield between it and the car. The exhaust does have some rust on, I guess, what the casing, I guess you would call it. It's not the integrity of the functional piece of the exhaust. I'm not sure what can be done about that. But Anyway, just something else that's dirty that I know is clean now. Just as a reminder, these are all the before pictures. These were pictures taken before they were in my possession or even in my state. Here is a close-up of the suspension on the passenger side from the front. There's rust here. I've started playing around with some of the rust removal products. I'm not sure how far I'm going to go with that. It's obviously nothing that's hurting the car. Uh, but other than that, just more grime. And the last of the before pictures. So next I'm going to be crawling under the car and showing what I've been able to do this past weekend, a couple of days of work, trying different things, different tools, for lack of a better word. Um, I think I might actually post this before I've finished the project. Kind of roll the dice. I'm not sure whether this is going to be a success story or a cautionary tale. We'll find that out. It's certainly not done at this point, or maybe it is. If I get sick of it, maybe it is done. But I'm planning to work on it some more this weekend.
So do try to keep in mind, this is not meant to be before and after. This is just part one of a process that could take a while depending on how far I decide to go with it. But you can see now the oil pan shows some rusts and stuff, but it's not super greasy anymore. The suspension pieces I talked about, they do have this surface rust. You can see this white residue is from when I treated it. And one thing that's kind of difficult about working on this, especially when you don't have the proper equipment or a lift, is that you get to a point when you've been cleaning it, it's just, you can't really tell what's clean. You just end up with the cleaning product and the actual grease that's still on it, and you can't really tell what you've done and what still remains until you wash it down, and then you end up soaked and wanting to go inside and stop. But what I'd really like is something, if there was some sort of degreaser that was more of a gel that you could put on these things and soak for a while. The product I've been using, a chemical guy stuff, it just dries up if you leave it on, especially since it's, dripping off while you're spraying it on. But if anybody has any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Working a little further back, you can see one of the things that got me enthusiastic, or whatever, I don't know if that's the right term, about doing this, is that these obviously were black. If you go back and look at the before pictures, and after just spraying with a pressure washer, it peeled off enough that I could see that there was some of the original finish underneath, and it seems like it's mostly still intact. It's a little tough to tell the difference between what might be a little bit of corrosion, a little bit of caked on residue that I haven't gotten to yet. But what I was trying to say before, was that it's difficult to tell what kind of progress you've made on this when you're doing this, because after just a medium amount of cleaning, you end up with a lot of stuff that hasn't been touched, and you end up with areas that might possibly be clean, but you just can't tell because it's covered with cleaning product, degreaser, and grease, and you can't really see anything until you blast it thoroughly with water, and then you can't see anything then. So what's the point? The point is, it's just going to be a methodical process of going through it and spending some time on it, cleaning it, whatever. One thing that's been kind of nice is seeing how nice the condition is on a lot of these rubber pieces. I think you can see it with this. It might be a little bit tougher to see on the mounts, but everything's pliable. Nothing's really cracked. When you get down here, you can see some of the original paint marks from the factory, which weren't visible at all prior. This thing is getting kind of clean. As I said, the transmission pan has been really resisting my attempts to clean it. Started off scraping just layers of gunk off of it. It's better, but it's not where I'd like it to be. See, some of these shields are better. I really spent some time in here, and I think this is actually looking pretty good. Bolts. Some places are legitimately almost shiny. I'll be videoing this stuff regardless of whether anybody else is interested. I just want to document my progress with this car. If it is the kind of thing people are interested in, and by the kind of thing, if you like seeing somebody that is kind of clueless going through and trying to learn how to do something which they've never done before, hit the like button, or if you feel really motivated to subscribe, you can always undo it later if you decide you don't like me. But it'll give me some indication of whether or not I should spend the time editing these things and trying to figure out how to get better at it. So, but as I said, this is just part one. This was not meant to be an after. It's the end of part one. And I hopefully will have the weather at the time to work on it a little bit more this week and think of some other strategies. And if there is any interest in it, I'll put it up where other people can see it. That's it.